Yeah, welcome to Anita Vita Rise. All right, everybody, welcome. It's Anita Vita Rise. Anita Vita Rise. Yeah, Anita Vita Rise. Yeah, Anita Vita Rise. Yeah, who can make it better? Anita Vita Rise. In all types of weather, Anita Vita Rise. Get you back together, Anita Vita Rise. Go send her a letter, Anita Vita Rise. Anita Vita Rise. Anita Vita Rise, yeah. Anita Vita Rise, yeah, yeah. Anita Vita Rise.
Welcome to Rise with Anita Vita. I am your host, Anita Vita, Master Medical Qigong teacher and healer. I'm so grateful and thankful you're here for another amazing episode. As you know, this show aims to amplify women's voices, have them share their stories so that they become a ripple effect of healing in this world. Today's guest is so amazing. Speaking of voices, she has her very own platform, the host of the Tao of Self-Confidence. She's an author, and she is named as one of the top 100 influential Filipino women on LinkedIn. Please help me welcome the beautiful Sheena Yap Chan to the show, everyone.
Hey everyone. Hey Anita. Thanks so much for having me. And can I just say your intro music is so catchy.
Oh, thank you.
I was like, now the song is like in my head, like Anita Vita Rise. So I love it. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you so much. I received that. That was one of the things that I really wanted in putting together the podcast and show was like, I really want to customize my intro and outro. And so the credit goes to my Tai Chi master teacher. Actually, he created for me. He happened to be in studio when I requested that before, like literally 3 days before we went live. So thank you for noticing. Yeah, I'm really in love with this with the intro, the song too. So appreciate you, and thank you again for being here. And for those who are not familiar with your work, who's listened to your podcast, how did you get into podcasting, and what motivated you to even start?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, it was in 2015. I didn't know what a podcast was. I just wanted to find a platform to really raise the voices of Asian women, because back then I was dealing with my own confidence. I wasn't feeling good enough. I couldn't make a decision for the life of it. I wasn't, in following my intuition. I had a lot of self-doubt, and I was trying to find resources that really catered to Asian women's confidence. And lo and behold, there was nothing. There was no resources out there. So part of me thought, okay, well, maybe something's wrong with me because I'm the only one feeling this way, right? And it's really because our culture always tells us to never talk about our feelings and what we're going through and our traumas. And so, I knew I wanted to have a platform to share women's stories, especially Asian women's stories. And that's when podcasting came along. Like I mentioned, I didn't know what it was. I just saw it on iTunes one day. And as I started learning about podcasting, I'm like, this is amazing. Because first off, nobody needed to see my face. I just talk and interview people. And I was like, this is amazing, right? And back then too, there was hardly any Asian people podcasting. So there was like one Asian dude podcasting about elevating the Asian community's voices. And I said, okay, I see that guy doing it. I'm going to go ahead and do it. And it took me a while too, because, when you start something new and it's unfamiliar, of course, you're going to have a lot of thoughts in your head. You're going to overanalyze everything. You also want to make sure everything is perfect to a T. And of course, if you keep doing that, nothing will get done. So I was glad I had friends and a support system, who helped me just push forward regardless of the outcome. And so I started my podcast, The Talent Self Confidence, where I interview Asian women about their journey to self confidence. I've interviewed over 700 Asian women from around the world.
Wow.
Even was able to, interview some phenomenal Filipinas, big name Filipinas like
Yeah.
Francesca Kramer, which like I never thought was possible, but it was just amazing. And beyond that, we were able to create our book, Asian Women Who Boss Up, which highlights the stories of 18 Asian women who have been able to forge their own path, overcome obstacles, and thrive. And books like that are so important, especially when you see 16 Asian women on the front cover of the book, right? Because
Mhm.
I don't see any books that highlight that many Asian women on the front cover. And for me, representation is so important because representation leads to possibilities. That's why I do what I do. That's why I really am passionate about creating representation, because I want Asian women to realize their potential, their capabilities. I want them to realize what's possible for them. What's possible for that person is also possible for them, right? Maybe one
Yeah.
day you want to be a chef or a content creator, or own your own business, or
Mhm.
climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I don't Whatever that is, right? It's possible because there's someone
Yeah.
out there doing it. And it makes an even bigger difference when it's someone who has the same cultural background as us, who's been through what
Yeah.
we've been through, because it's relatable, right? I mean, I
Yes.
can't relate to every single person, but I can relate to our community because I've lived through it. I know what it's like, and so I can help them overcome these things. And so, just super excited and passionate about this, been able to also speak on stages, speak for companies, and it's been such a huge blessing to do that. Like, I never thought 5 years ago I would be doing this. When I first started my podcast,
Mm.
I had no clue where it was going. I just wanted to start something. I just really wanted to start something, really just create representation and just see where it goes. Um, and I'm glad I never quit, because there were days where I wanted to quit and
Yeah.
like throw my computer against the wall, because it's a lot of work. It's a labor of love.
Yeah.
And, it's like your baby at this point. And
Mhm.
so, I'm just really grateful to be here today to talk with you, to be in the presence with such phenomenal women, Asian women, and, just loving every minute of it.
Thank you so much for not quitting. I relate 1,000% with that. And congratulations, you're reaching what, 7 years? You're seven. Have we reached your anniversary just yet for the podcast?
Not in September, it'll be 7 years. I know it's
Okay.
been so fast.
Wow. That's amazing. That's so amazing. And I love that you said what you said about representation mattering. Because, I mean, can you imagine listening to a podcast if we were in our high school days or even younger and even got to read books about women who were confident and who are successful in their own right, whatever that looks like for them. And because they look like us, it's like, oh, I could, I know that there's possibilities for me to reach my highest and my best potential as well. And so I'm glad you didn't listen to those gremlins that keeps telling you like, who are you? You're not enough. Who are, what do you mean you're going to start a podcast? And you sharing you're on stages and a best-selling author. That's so beautiful. And so, I admire that so much about you. And now here you are on my show, and similarly what I'm doing the same thing to amplify women's voices. This most of the women that I've been interviewing is they haven't even been on a podcast or a show, or to be going live at that, which is even more difficult, right? Because we can't edit that. And what I love so much about it is it's real, it's authentic, there's flow, there's just real conversation. And that's what I love about when I host a show. I mean, people think that just because it has show at the end of it, it's so curated, it's so scripted. And the thing is, it's not. I think for me, it's my way to express myself, another way of allowing my creativity to shine and to see other women do the same. And if that's my platform for them to do that and give them the permission to be like, oh wow, I can do this too, or I can also be a guest, I could also be a host and see both worlds, is amazing to me. And that's that ripple effect that I'm seeing. And now with you, this is your ripple effect now, having shared the book, and you have another book coming out. And I mean that with the series, can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, this so the book is part of a book series called Women Who Boss Up. So it's not, we don't only just highlight Asian women, we do our best to highlight all women, especially women of color, because as women of color, we're very underrepresented, right? I remember there's like a month ago, I read a survey from catalyst.org, and it talked about the representation of women of color in management roles in the US in 2021. So, Black women represented 4.4%, Latino women represented 4.3, and Asian women represented 2.7%. So these numbers are very low, right? And of
Yeah.
course, this topic of diversity inclusion is so important, right? Because there's
Yeah.
a lot of companies that say they are for it but aren't really for it. It's just talk and
Hmm.
no action. And diversity has to be something very important because we have to create better representation, especially when you live in a melting pot like the US and Canada. I mean, we should be all, like be treated equally the same, right? Versus, being treated by, unfairly because of the color of your skin or, your gender. And especially with our community, like, the rise of racist attacks against our Asian community has been so horrendous. The violence against Asian women has been so bad.
Yeah.
Especially in New York, you hear these stories every single day. You see our elderly and Asian women lining up for hours just to get pepper spray. I mean, we should all be able to feel safe in our own home, but yet we aren't because of these things happening. And that's why creating media like this is so important, creating strong media, creating representation so that we're not seen as our negative stereotypes, because for
Hmm.
centuries that's what most people think of us. They think Asian women are quiet, submissive, obedient, we're treated as sex objects. I mean, 3 weeks ago, I saw a headline that just was a huge turnoff, and it was like top male Asian mail order brides to look at in 2022. And it's like, really, we're not something you can pick off a catalog,
Yeah.
It's really degrading to think that's all we're good for, right? And that's still happening in 2022. So that's why I am very passionate to create more media, to share stories, to empower women to go out there and speak up, because the pandemic has really affected us. And for me, there's no better way to go than up. I think we're at the lowest of the low. People don't
Hmm.
realize how much the pandemic has affected women globally. I think globally we've lost a total income of $800 billion, and that's a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Um, 100% job losses in the US, even here in Canada, women lost their jobs 100 times more than men. So these are all very important things we have to bring awareness to and find ways to create better representation, to empower women, to help them see their potential, to go out there and do the things that they're meant to do, right? Like live with their highest self so that we can create a positive impact. So yeah, so we do have, sorry, I kind of went off topic. And
No, don't apologize.
so we do have so this book series, we've created 7 books already. And this came out of the start of the pandemic, right? So we've highlighted women of color, Latinas, moms, women entrepreneurs. We're going to have a second Asian book coming out called Asian Women Trailblazers Who Boss Up. So we're super excited about that. And then I'll be meeting Anita in person for the first time because I'll be heading to
Yay.
LA, because next week we'll have our last half of our Women Who Boss Up book tour. So this was our first in-person event since the pandemic. And as much,
Nice.
it's very exciting, but at the same time, it's very nerve-wracking because, when you're
Hmm.
doing something for the first time, like you don't know what to expect, right? But that's just normal, that's normal
Right.
to feel that way, right? But when you see like the women
Hmm.
who's going to show up, what the women who's going to speak, and you get to network and collaborate with, I mean, that's all worth it, right? So we'll be going
Yes.
to Los Angeles, San Francisco next week, and then next month we're going to have our first conference in Las Vegas. So pretty busy for the next month. I'll be traveling. I'll be traveling to the States next week, so I can attend the events and meet phenomenal Asian women in person like Anita. So I'm super excited about that. And we're always creating more books. We always want to create more representation for women, and um, we want it to be like the chicken noodle soup of the soul for women entrepreneurs because it's so needed.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? Thank you for sharing all of that. I feel the passion in your voice to bring light to these topics, how do you stay centered in all of it? Because I'm sure there's, some triggering, like the headlines or the news. How do you stay passionate in wanting to share and shed light on all of these topics, and at the same time being centered through it all?
I mean, I think I always just look back at my purpose. Of course, I'm not always this cheery. There's days where I'm just like mad at the world. I mean, I'm only human, right? But
Yeah.
I also look back, like when I see that headline, I'll call it out, right? I'll speak up about it and be like, this is uncalled for, right?
Hmm.
We shouldn't have to deal with this in 2022. Or, I love listening to other people's stories, especially in our community who've been able to, make really big changes. Like last weekend, I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once, and phenomenal movie. You got to go
Hmm.
out and watch it. I mean, Michelle Yeoh had an interview, and I just love her. She's just a queen, right? And she talks about, how this movie finally, shows an ordinary immigrant Asian woman who becomes the lead and heroine of the movie. And how many movies showcase that in the US?
Right.
Yeah, right? So, I mean,
Barely.
they've been able to make someone very invisible visible, right? And
Hmm.
that is
Hmm.
huge, right? The fact that,
Yeah.
we can relate to that, right? She
Hmm.
was also going through her own demons, but was able to see her potential and just went out there and did it. And, she talks about how, if you want change, you got to go out there and just take charge. And it's not easy to create that change, right? Of course,
Right.
we have all these things in our head thinking, well, what if it fails? What if it this and that and this and that? And,
Yeah.
sometimes you have to learn to like quiet it out and just move forward. And also, like, being able to have a support system is so important. I know in our culture, it's not always easy to ask for help because we're told it's a sign of weakness or it's very
Hmm.
shameful. But I mean,
Hmm.
if we don't ask help from each other, how are we going to create the changes that we want? Right? How can,
Yeah.
in order to create these big changes, we have to work together. We have to collaborate. We have to have a common purpose so that we can eradicate some of the things that we go through, right? The
Right.
racism, the sexism, the inequality. And so asking for help is really important, or having that support system is very important, especially since the pandemic really affected our mental health. Like, we need outlets where we can just speak about how we feel, if we're feeling good or not, or if we're having a bad day. Like, it's okay to feel that way. We shouldn't have to apologize that we have a bad day, or we're mad about something, or we're sad about something, because we don't apologize if we're happy about something, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, as human beings, we're gonna go through different moods, and it should
Yeah.
be okay. So being able to ask for help, going through my purpose, listening to other people's stories, just seeing what they had to go through to get to where they are today. Like, it makes me realize, like, this journey is not going to be easy. It's okay. We're going to
Hmm.
go through roadblocks. That's fine. But we know where we're heading. And so as long as you know where you're heading, all the other stuff it's not as big as you think.
I'm enjoying our conversation so much, especially those top three. When your community, I relate 1,000%. There is that part of us where we're like, I'm going to do it all and be that unicorn and be self-made. Like, why? It's
Yeah.
so exhausting on the way by yourself, and it's lonely, and it's so lonely. And I like that you also shared about giving ourselves the permission to go ahead and do it. And action really does speak louder than words. And so I want to know a little bit more around your mindset with those and how you apply those tools. In the meantime, let's just take a quick break for the amazing companies that is sponsoring this episode today. We'll be right back.
Rose Buado and Jennifer Redondo Marquez are the founders and co-authors of In Her Purpose, 40 Principles of Asian Women Redefining Success on Their Own Terms. These are true stories of women who took different career paths ranging from fashion to art to entertainment to entrepreneurship and many more. Rose and Jen embarked on the In Her Purpose project to advocate for women, to feed and fuel the future generation, and to help women define and live out their life's purpose.
What's up, family? I am Anita Vita, Master Medical Qigong teacher and healer. I believe that nurses deserve to be nurtured as much as they give. As a high performing woman myself, I coach women how to overcome chronic gut pain so that they have total freedom in their life through the practice of medical Qigong. In 2011, while working as a nurse in the post anesthesia unit, I experienced severe burnout, and it expressed itself as IBS, or irritable bowel syndrome. Discovering this practice allowed me to eradicate this gut disease completely and naturally through meditation alone. The slow, mindful movements of medical Qigong are potent and transformational, recalibrating your cellular structure by cultivating your body's natural energy and healing source called Qi. Today, I coach and empower women to achieve the same result through private and group programs, workshops, and retreat experiences to awaken you to your truth and be the highest version of yourself. If you're still in pain, you've tried everything, and you're sick and tired going from doctor to doctor with only prescriptions and strict diets as solutions, fear no more, my friend, because you have found me. Send me a message right now at anita@nacionvita.com and we'll get you to rise out of that pain, guaranteed. So I can imagine with everything that you're building and creating, it takes a lot of courage to move forward with. And I'm so excited to see you in person, by the way. That just popped up. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to see you soon. It's coming up. And going back to my question, what does radical self-love mean for you? And how do you apply it in your life?
Yeah, I mean, for me, radical self-love is, learning to love the good, bad, and the ugly, right? Back then, I always just still used to love the good parts of me and, just be a huge judger on the bad parts, right? We become our own worst enemies. That was me. And it took me a while to realize, like, I have to love every part of myself, the good, bad, the ugly, learning, to love my strengths and weaknesses, the mistakes I made. And it took a lot of work on myself, right? And it didn't happen overnight. For me, it's taking, small steps to get to where I am, because it's those small steps that really yield the big results, right? So I worked with coaches, had a I even went like energy healing, and being able to surround myself with women who can help me see my blind spots, right? Because we all have them, right? And being able to go through all those things really helped me learn to love myself. And yeah, there's still days where I still judge myself, because of course I'm not perfect. I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes, and that's okay. Sometimes I'll be like, oh my God, I just put on these pants and they look horrible. Like my love handles are coming out. And then I'm like, you know what? At this age, I mean, I love my love handles. If they don't like it, too bad. Because also how we love ourselves is how people will accept us as well, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you don't love yourself, how do you expect the person who you want to spend the rest of your life with accept you for all the good, bad, and the ugly, right? You bring about what you think about. So it's really important to really work on yourself, take care of yourself, love yourself for all the things that you have done, good, bad, or not, and really just own it, right? And of course, it just doesn't happen overnight. It does take
Right.
work on your part. It takes a lot of unprogramming, especially in a culture where you're taught to, always please other people before you take care of yourself. I mean, that is exhausting, right? It's
Yeah.
exhausting to keep pleasing other people and realizing like you end up in these situations where you can't get out of. Like, we have to learn to create boundaries, say no to things that don't serve us, and be okay if sometimes even our family doesn't understand, right? Because I know, of course, if you've seen the movie Turning Red,
Right.
like Mei Ling, she's like, the number one rule is to honor your parents no
Yes.
matter what,
So
because
good.
they gave you life, right? Yes,
Yeah.
of course I love my parents. I love
Yeah.
everything that they've done, but I don't agree with every single thing they tell me, right? We've fought, we've argued, but
Right.
I know in their heart they just mean well, and they've been taught the same thing that my grandparents taught them and their parents and so on. So it's all this generational trauma that we go through, realizing like,
Right.
they don't know any better because they were taught that way, right? And they're just passing on what they were taught. And so now that we realize that, it's up to us to break that cycle. So
Right.
a lot of
Right.
unpacking, unboxing, unprogramming, and learning to sometimes accept things that you can't control, right? I know as women, we love to control every situation, but
Every situation.
that's not going to happen. And sometimes you just can't control it, and you have to learn to just let it go. So yeah,
Man.
that's some of the things that I do. And I also, one of the things I like to do is, in the beginning, I used to think, if I met like meditation was you have to sit down and like, say and close your eyes. And honestly, that was a fail for me. I tried it like
Yeah.
100 million times. It just didn't work. And then I thought something was wrong with me. And then I realized that nothing was wrong with me. Just that wasn't my way of meditating. So for me, I
Mhm.
love to run. I run everywhere. As long as I know it's safe, I will go
Yeah.
out there and go for a jog, go by the beach, be outside, things like that. Whether it's here or the States or even in the Philippines, a part of me always wants to feel safe in their own home, right?
Right.
That's how I want to feel. That's the kind of energy I want to give. And I've been blessed that, it's been a safe environment for me. Of course, I would never tell my Lola that because she'd be like, "You're crazy. You're gonna jog by yourself in the streets, and what if you get mugged?" I'm like, "No, it's fine." So, that's the kind of energy that I want to create. Create that safety, creating that energy that my where I live is a safe place.
Hmm. Those are such great tools to use in making sure you're moving your body and in understanding. What I'm hearing you share is really understanding yourself and how, and I like that you're using yourself as a reflection to see how someone else is going to receive you. Like, how are they going to love me if I don't really love myself at the level that I would like to, right? So I would love to know, the 700 women plus probably now that you've got to interview, what did you find was the most common thing that we had to, and I speak we because I'm Filipino, that we had to overcome? Like, those are common, what did you find was the common trauma that we are all working on in this
Yeah.
day and age? Yeah.
Well, the people pleasing, of course, the self doubt. For Filipino women, it's also the color of their skin because whitening
Mm,
products are very prevalent in the Philippines. You see whitening products all over the highways,
yeah.
billboards, even artistas promote it. And it's not only in the Philippines. I've been to Vietnam, to Korea. All they all promote it. And whitening products is a multi-billion-dollar industry,
Yes.
right? So even learning to feel beautiful in their own skin is not always easy, especially when we've been programmed to always be like the Western world, right?
Yeah.
So those are the common things, really, like not feeling worthy. As women, we
Mhm.
always tend to feel like we're not worthy enough. We don't deserve the things that we deserve. We overthink everything, not following our intuition, really hard to make a decision, feeling small. So, these are all common
Mm.
things. And, I was glad to hear that, these women went through it because I went through those things, but they were able to overcome it. So for me, it was like, there's that light, at the end of the tunnel. I can get out of this. This isn't something that is permanent. This is just temporary. And if I work on myself, I can get out of it and be the best person that I can be. So,
That's so beautiful. And I know you're continuously learning. And in those topics that you just mentioned, I totally relate 1,000% too. Like, yep, that's it. Especially the worthiness part. That's like probably the biggest one to let go of and really understand.
oh,
And
yeah.
it's
I mean,
possible. It's
It, it
possible.
it is possible. And, a lot of women, even men, deal with imposter syndrome, right? Like, who am I to have a show? Who am I to speak on stage? Who am I to get
Yeah.
this promotion? Like, we all go through it,
Yeah.
right? And we have to realize, like, we deserve this, okay? Even if we
Hmm.
have
Hmm.
no clue what we're going to do, because, sometimes we get into the situation, like, say we
Yeah.
get the promotion and you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I got the promotion. And, sometimes you have to realize, it's okay if you don't know. You
Yeah.
just will figure it out along the way. As women, we're very capable. We're more capable than we realize, and we'll make it happen
Yeah.
because, as women, if we were in a dire situation and we were given a certain number of time to make things happen, we will make it happen, right? Regardless if we started from zero,
Yes.
we're going to go out there and make it happen. So if you think that way, imagine what you can accomplish. And,
Yeah.
most men, especially most Caucasian men, when they get promotions, they really don't know what they're going to do. They just say yes and they figure it out along the way. And that's why there's a huge confidence gap between men and women, because as women, we tend to overthink everything, overanalyze, make sure everything is perfect. Men, it's like they're like, okay, let's try this out. And if I fail, I fail. If I get it, then I'll figure it out later what to do. So if we have that kind of mindset where we just figure things out along the way, we can get so much done. And especially during the pandemic, I learned to just learn to do it on the fly. Yeah. Do I make mistakes? Absolutely. It's not perfect. It's a hot mess sometimes, but we got things done.
Yes.
Like we were able to create 7 books. We were able to, get to speak on stage, or,
Yeah.
be able to, connect with so many amazing people, because sometimes our mistakes can lead us to our greatest opportunities. And so that's why now I'm not afraid to make a mistake. Back then I was, because in the Philippines, when I went to kindergarten there, I actually failed kindergarten for coloring outside the lines. So can you imagine how traumatizing that is at 5
Yes.
years old? Like I was stuck in this one photo that I could not color within the lines. They gave me a brand new piece of paper with that same
What?
photo to color in. I still couldn't color it inside the lines, and I failed kindergarten. I had to move to another school to redo kindergarten all over again. So for the
Wow.
longest time, I always thought I
What?
was this huge failure, not realizing I was just never meant to be within the lines or within the box. I was always meant to do something different, something outside the lines. And if I had that, that work, that self discovery, I would have figured it out a lot earlier than, maybe like 5 years ago. But that's okay. Everything happens for a reason, right? I
Yes.
wish one of the things that schools really taught was self-care, self-confidence,
Yeah.
mindset, because that is so important. Those are actual real world things that they need, when they're just pushed out into the world. Like, what happens when you get rejected? No one's going to be like, "Oh, it's okay." It's like, no, you got to get up and move on to the next, right?
Right.
Um
Right.
there, like sometimes life can be cruel and tough, right? But we have to
Mhm.
understand we're a lot tougher, and we can go out there and make things happen. Even if we get rejected 10,000 times, we're just going to keep going until we get to that end goal. So,
Right. I believe that's where our resiliency comes from.
yeah.
And my hope is though that it doesn't have to start there. And now
Yeah.
that we're creating awareness about it, it'll be less and less. And I think, I think that's so amazing in healing our generational wounds for sure.
Yeah.
So, how can we support you and where can we find you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for those of you who are listening in and tuning into the live or the replay, you can connect with me on my website. It's sheenayapchan.com. You can also check out my website, my podcast called The Tao of Self-Confidence on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, or you can check it out at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Would love your support if you can purchase a copy of Asian Women Who Boss Up. It'll be on both websites. Also, if you did not remember anything I said, if you just Google Sheena Yap Chan, I am the only Sheena Yap Chan on the internet, so I'm really not that hard to
Nice.
find. And if you happen to be in LA next week, feel free to come to our event. Would love to meet you in person. Like I'm gonna meet Anita next week, so super excited for that. There is a huge difference between virtual and in person, right? Like
Mhm.
it's just in person is just it's just a really different and good, like it's a really different feeling, and it's just better, right?
Mhm.
Because you get to
Yeah.
talk right beside each other and take photos, and
Yeah.
it's just a different energy, right? I mean, virtual is great because we get to connect all over the world, but I mean, like
Yes.
human connection is very important as well. So yeah, I would love to see you there. If not, hopefully in San Francisco or in Las Vegas at our one of our events. So yeah, connect with me there. Connect with me on my websites. And I just want to say thank you, Anita, for having me here today.
Ah, you're so welcome. I appreciate you for taking the time because it's a 3-hour difference because she's out in you're in Toronto. Yeah?
Yeah, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
almost
So she's out
quarter
in
to
she's
10.
yes. So if you're out there in T-Town, go say hi, go look her up and say hello. I'm sure she'll be happy to have a coffee or a chat, right? Because I agree with you in person. connection is amazing. It's real, right? We like the human touch. We like to hug. We like to see each other. It's just, I think that's just how nature made us to be, and not be just on the digital world. While I agree with the impact that it can also hold, like now, because she's 3 hour difference, she's way on the other side of the country, and I'm here on the west side, and now we're having this conversation and being able to increase awareness for her story and give value to you all, right? So I'm so grateful you're here. Thank you so, so much, Sheena, for being here. And I look forward to seeing you in person next week. I'm sure we'll connect very, very soon. I
Same
appreciate
here.
you.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a beautiful day. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that Sheena's episode has inspired you, that you learned something. And if it brought you some value, as always, I really appreciate it if you share it, and that you continue to follow, to engage, and to subscribe to my platform and in my show. So that wraps up the last episode of this season. I'm so grateful and thankful for all the amazing guests who has shown up and to share their wisdom and insights with you. As always, I root for your rise, you guys. Next week starts a brand new season. I'm so excited. I look forward to seeing you. Have a beautiful night. Bye.
Rise, I need to be the rise.